Welcome to GMA Talk, Global Mission Advocacy Talk. And on this week, we are very glad that to have a special guest all the way in Ghana, in the motherland, to talk to us about refugees and migrants on what is happening in Ghana, or just a clear picture of West Africa in general. Welcome to GMA Talk, Emmanuel.
Thank you so much, my brother, for the invitation, and I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, very glad to have you, and thank you very much for making the time. I really appreciate you for that. And so maybe we can just get in the conversation. So please introduce yourself, your name, where you reside. I already say Ghana, and then also in terms of your profession and what you do.
Great. So my name is Emmanuel Clayford Jitia. Most often my colleagues call me Clayford. Others call me Emmanuel. That is fine, whichever you are comfortable with. So I would say I am development professional, but currently focusing on the youth space. So youth development professional for the past 5 years, working with a lot of youth, young people and youth organizations. Currently, my interest has been in the area of the UN Sustainable Development Goals since 2015, and then also working in the space of migration. And in migration, my focus has been on migration data, and then also how migration can be streamlined in sustainable development. Apart from that, I'm also quite interested in organizational development, and I've supported a lot of organizations in doing that. Ensuring that they can strategize for the future and all that. So that is that. I currently I work on the UN Major Group for Children and Youth as the Africa Focal Point, and that really connected us to have this conversation.
Yeah, yes. Indeed, for sure, as you mentioned that, and yeah, it seems amazing work, and congratulations on the work that you are doing on the ground. So as you already in terms of alluded to the UN Major Group for Children and Youth, and we recently just concluded an International Youth Forum on Migration. Unfortunately, couldn't happen face-to-face because of the current COVID-19 measures in place. But even though it was still online, the experience was still fantastic and great to meet other people and like-minded young people who are doing migrant and refugee stuff. So for you specifically, what was your experience and your takeaway from the forum?
I would say that this is actually a very important forum for me, because then they deal with the issues that I really care about. And this is migration governance issue. And when we talk about migration governance issues, then what comes to mind immediately is the governments and the top organizations or the top international organizations, as well as the UN. Most often we think that young people don't really have to get a say when we are talking about migration governance. But through the effort of young people like you and I, the Youth Forum has been set up for us to be able to interact and to be able to interact. And so what has happened is that I really learned a lot from the entire discussion, learned from colleagues, young people across the region and across the world as well. The platform that was used, and critically in the regional roundtable, we use something we call the Jamboard, the Google Jamboard.
Yes.
To me, that is very key for me, because when young people meet and talk about issues, we also look at the tools that we are using to discuss or brainstorm on our ideas. And the mere fact that we use an IT tool like the Google Jamboard, that was the first time that I'm using. To me, that has really stick with me. And I'm going to really use it in the various engagement that I have with other young people as well. So that is the first thing that really stuck with me.
Wow, yeah, that's it's very interesting that yeah, you brought up in terms of the job board and like jump board and just making feasible of what we have and engaging and facilitating the conversation. Because even for me, I was one of the co-facilitator for the North America conversation.
Ah,
I was
great.
like the outcome, like document outcome. And so it was also the first time also like being introduced to this jump board idea.
Mm,
Then I had to invest some little time like to learn about it, and I really liked it. Just for people to be able to facilitate the ideas and collaboration. So for sure,
yeah,
I will also use it going along without a doubt. But and then
yeah,
when you talk about
yeah.
the forum and you being the focal point for the organization in Africa, and then also facilitating one of the conversation. What has been the significant
Mhm.
achievement in your capacity and your experience so far as the focal point for the organization?
Yeah, so I assume into office in I think April last year, which is 2020, and of course the things that we've been doing so far, we've been working in the midst of COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
and to me that is very critical. That immediately we got into office, COVID-19 came in,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't really stop. We still have been working and pushing for the perspective of young people, specifically on migration issues. And so when the COVID came in, we were already conducting, and I led that consultation, African-wide consultations on migration issues. That really fed into the AU regional migration consultation ahead of the GFMD itself. So if you remember, prior to the GFMD that will happen, I think in next 2 weeks, prior to that, there have been already regional conversations.
Yes.
And in there, the Africa focal points and the young people that I consulted or we work with, we've been able to really be part of that regional discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is very critical. And if you look at our impact report that came out after that conversation, all the young people, all of us really agreed 100% that our voices and our input really shaped the discussions. The focus were on 3 topics. So we were looking at scaling migrant for employment, addressing gaps on migrant protection, and then the last one is governance on labor migration. And that is very critical for us as a region. And we were, as a young people, were able to have space in that. And to me, is a great achievement. And we brought some of these voices to
Yeah.
the regional roundtable that we had in the youth forum.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, thank you very much for sharing that because yeah, even for me, I'm really learning and getting a picture of what is happening on the ground because most of the time, us here in the diaspora, we not well connected or don't know very well of what is happening on the ground because when it comes like to migration, I know for sure, it's among a heated topic and discussions for mobility of Africans and free movement of Africans. So to learn about the work. The organization and you and your team are doing on the ground is very, very great to be aware of. Then when you look then in terms of that, the advocacy among Africans and whether in the home or in the diaspora for mobility and free movement, what is like the most pressing issues in Ghana when it comes like to refugees and migrants?
So I think that now we are having this conversation about migrants and refugees in the African region. We definitely have to look at it from the context of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement that really came into force, which will be one of the critical things that will shape the discussion of migration into the future. But prior to that, the discussion has been very scanty. It's really not straightforward, and here I'm talking based on my experience in Ghana. I have had opportunity to chance on some government documents that seeks to review progress on development at the local level, at the city level, and even at the district level. And most often what you see is that migration is only mentioned as an issue, as a problem.
Wow.
So just in the midst of COVID, I was part of a validation team that validated. So the mayor of Accra, the office of the mayor of Accra, actually put together the voluntary local review of the SDGs in Accra. So they are looking at how the SDGs implementation has happened in Accra. And in that document, we were called to validate it. And I was looking at the document from the perspective of migration and of course, refugees as well. And what I realized was that migration was mentioned just about 4 times in the entire document. And even in that document, what they were saying is that these are the number of people, migrants we have in Accra, for instance, in the greater Accra region. And they just stated that. And that is the end of what migration. So when it came to analyzing progress and looking at which group are the minority group in the city, migrants were not mentioned. Meanwhile, in the background, the document states that about 47% of the population in Accra are migrants. And so that is very interesting to see that you mentioned that majority, close to majority of the people are migrant, but then in the actual meat of the document, you don't state how these people are dealt with or how they are also participating in the context of migration in the region. So that is very critical. And even at the district level, some of these issues are mentioned just as a problem and not really look at it because there's a lot of benefit of migration. And I think we've not come to that point to realize it, especially local authorities and government authorities.
Yeah, and that's because it's very unfortunate that most of our governments, like on the African continent, they don't recognize that key or beneficial aspect of migrants, and then what these people like bring to the table in terms of skills, in terms of education, and then in terms of just being established on the ground. And then it's very also unfortunate that even some of these African countries make even nearly impossible, like for an African to get even a visa or to immigrate or move to that specific country. So, but hopefully, the situation will continue to change on that. And as you mentioned, with the recently enacted and enforced free trade agreement. But when you look specifically, because in West Africa, there's conflicts and regional fightings which are ongoing, then which specific countries that the Ghana host refugees, like where do those refugees or migrants come from? And then also at the same time, what is the feeling or the view of Ghanaians when it comes like to refugees and migrants in the country?
So with this question, I think it's really timely because in the beginning of 2019, myself and a colleague visited a refugee camp in the central region of Ghana. It's one of the biggest refugee camps that we have in Ghana. And we were able to speak to get first-hand information from these refugees. Some of them are from Cote d'Ivoire, some of them are from Liberia, some also from Nigeria. They are in the refugee camp. And the point is they shared a lot of information with us. They spoke to us passionately about how their situation is moving. Not moving forward as they seem to. And the fact is that they were saying that they have entirely been neglected by the government. That is the position that they gave us. And some of them also mentioned how the UN agencies has not really been supporting them. But in my unofficial conversation after that encounter with some officials, They try to quote some laws and other instruments and other effort that the government has been putting in place. But the people on the ground are saying that these things are not the truth. I mean, they are not feeling it as we have it on paper. And so clearly I see that there is a mismatch between what the government and other UN agencies and other international organizations are doing in support of refugees and exactly what is happening to them in their refugee camps. And so that is very critical point that I want us to take note of. Quite apart from that, if you are looking at refugees in a clear camp community, they said they have received mixed kind of reaction from people in the host communities. You know, there are people that are welcoming. There are people that doesn't really also agree that you have to participate or compete or be like them or share the same kind of opportunities that they are also enjoying as citizens. So there are mixed reactions from these communities. But apart from that, when you look at, and I really want to mention this before you get into the next point, in the context of migrant traders. And to me, that is very important to me because there are a lot of migrant traders in Ghana, and most of them work in the shops, small shops, retail shops, in the markets that are in Accra. And the point is that according to the retail industry, the Ghanaians are saying that if you are not a citizen, you can't engage in a retail. So you can't be a retailer. So that is what the law is. But there are some foreigners or migrants that have retail shops. And after this conversation, I will share with you some videos that some media houses has been covering from that incident. And the point is that there have always been clash between Ghanaian retailers and then the foreign or migrant retailers in Accra. And the authorities and a lot of government institutions and even NGOs, they have not really been a lot of discussion on this particular matter. And to me, this is very important because now that we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, that to rate, probably we will get the opportunity to trade or to engage in trade at every level in every country in the continent. Host communities or host countries or citizens has to understand that the competition has been widened. There are no limitation to the competition that you can have in your business. And so you can be in Ghana and still compete with someone in Zimbabwe or Zambia. And there's someone in Zimbabwe can also receive competition from you. And so we just have to agree to that. If not, there will be a lot of such clashes in many communities or in many countries across the continent. And I think that when we are looking at the trade, the professional government-to-government trade, we have to look deeply into the market women to market women, the usual people that sell perishable commodities and other items. So we all have to look at all these people and make sure that, because they are in the informal sector, and they really control most economies in the continent.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting perspective and a very interesting point here, because I think with this enacted agreement, there need to really be a lot of education among like those traders and market people, you know, because they have the right and to access now this market, right? But the regular citizen or that mom or that dad or that youth on the market might not understand, or maybe the resentment towards these traders or migrants might even added more as a result of that lack of communication, or lack of support even further from the government.
Exactly my point. And so the communication has to be more, and it has to be grassrooted. It doesn't have to be the top level usual kind of education.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. Then, when you look in terms of you spoke about how in the middle of last year, there were things which are planning, and then COVID came along in terms of some things with the organization and your role specifically with the organization. So then, what is COVID-19, the challenges that has brought further, added further when you think of like the support of refugees and migrants in the area, and then what is the continuous work you and your colleagues are doing in order to support these people in the country?
Yeah, so there have been a lot of movement that has happened. Looking at the UNMGCY, the major group itself has really been mapping youth initiatives that are supporting migrants and, of course, refugees, and looking at how we can match it with support. Because when someone is doing something with their own strength, they may need to get some kind of external support to be able to scale up. And so that has been one of the angles that UNMGCY has been doing that. So there was special COVID-19 call for young people to submit their initiatives and what they are doing so that the UNMGCY can get them to spaces that can attract support. So that has been one of the efforts, or some of the efforts that we are putting in place. Quite apart from that, I think if you look at the work that we do, it has also been very interesting, because then we are not able to move as we are supposed to. So everything has been virtual. And I remember we had some initiative with UNICEF. It was some meeting with IDPs, and we needed to get an IDP to be on a panel. And this was very serious, because then we are looking at, it was the COVID time, and we were looking at getting someone in an IDP camp in Sudan. And I was in charge of that. And I had to be connected with someone in Kenya. The person has to call someone in Sudan. The person called, he said, there's lockdown and you can't move and all that. When we were finally able to get the person that we want him to be, the young person to be on the panel, the young person also had issues with the internet at the camp. And we were looking at connecting him to the UNICEF office in Sudan. That was also a challenge, because then the UNICEF office has good internet, but they were also were closed because of COVID. They were working from home. So it was a challenge, but I was able to finally speak to I think the communication specialist at the UNICEF office in Sudan, and ask him, see, this is one of the UNICEF program, and we need the young IDP to be on it. And he agreed to support the young person with extra internet bandwidth, and the person was able to join. So this is how we are working from the scene to get certain things done. If you really want to work with a migrant, a refugee that is in a refugee camp that already have limited resources, not to talk about internet, because to them, internet becomes a luxury. It's not something that you and I, we always have internet, but for them, they don't have it all the time. And so when you want to connect with a refugee in a refugee camp, you then have to go the extra mile to probably provide another internet, because now you are connecting with a person online. And they don't have stable internet. You really need to do a lot of work to get them on board. And this is what COVID has done to the work that we do, especially engaging with the first-hand refugees, migrants, and then also IDPs.
Wow, that's because in terms of, for sure, like the internet situations, you look at our countries in Africa, some of them even have most expensive bundles, just for people connected. And that doesn't make sense, because especially in the world and the environment of today, everything is online. Instead of like making it at least communication cheaper or internet cheaper, but people to afford bundles, and people have to make a decision whether like to buy bread or to buy food, or to buy,
Exactly,
and that's
exactly,
often the
exactly.
challenges which people many face.
Great.
Mhm. So and then what is then in terms of call to action among, I know you already spoke in terms of some of the resolution which came out from the forum in terms of your focal group and focal point in Africa, but for the general youth in Ghana or across Africa, whether working in refugees, working in migrant, what is like call to action, and how can these people support or these people get involved in some of these most critical issues in our countries?
I think that for me, there's one thing that has been on top of my agenda, that we need a very, very serious migration movement led by young people on the continent. Because I see that going into the future, the implementation of the Africa Free Trade Agreement will have a lot of impact on the movement of people. And we need a movement led by young people that can deal with all the issues that will come up. And that is critical. Apart from having a regional movement like that, we also need national movement to be able to step in and deal with issues that will come up. Because after COVID, there will be a lot of movement. And all these movements will also come to people trying to see what is happening across, and because we've all been in the house for a very long time. Myself, I've been in the house for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
I spend even some days I don't even leave the house now.
so that is very critical, that we have to look at how we can address some of the issues that will come up, and young people have the capacity to be able to do that. And then when we have that movement, we will be able to bring some of the critical issues around migration data. We really need to do a lot of research to better understand migrant, refugees, and IDP issues in the continent, because all the figures that we are getting are figures that are sponsored, that are not state-sponsored or not domestically sponsored. I hope you understand when I say that, because if you are gathering data that are projectized, the data most often are not flexible. Your analysis are not flexible, because then you are tied to the outcome of the project that we are working on. And that make your analysis not being more, it will be comprehensive, but not flexible enough for you to come up with some insight that may not be in line with the outcome of the project that we are working on. And so when we have domestic sponsored research, then we will be able to gather data that are more flexible. We can generate proper insights into whatever is happening in terms of migration in the continent. And movement within the region is more than movement outside the region. And this is something that we need to make sure that the data speak to it as it is. But the media out there and other, the popular notion is that Africans move outside Africa, which is not the case. We move within ourselves more than moving outside the continent. And this thing, we need to have our domestic sponsored research that can make this clear to everyone, including international organizations, the UN, government, and everyone, to be able to know that this is what is happening in the region. And that these things can happen when you have a very good movement. Like, climate change is one of the things that I have followed and learned a lot from, the way the movement has sparked. And that movement has called a lot of, have called for a lot of solutions and a lot of actions to be taken. And similar movement we need that in the African region to be able to bring forth a lot of things that we are seeing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I understand what you are saying in terms of that local data, local sponsored information, and local information. Because you are getting somebody, headquartered, whether in London or Washington or Tokyo or wherever, they are writing, about what is happening on the ground in Africa, where I was like on the ground, on the continent, in our countries, there's no those, resources, information for people to be informed, So it will be very good, to even see, how the regional economical organizations and also like the African Union, how whether it's ECOWAS or SADC or EAC, like in even like in East Africa. So how they can for sure ensure like those sponsored information and data that and people are very very getting and being informed and making things very flexible and easy.
Exactly.
To be connected and to move around.
Yeah.
And so for everything that we've spoken and I've asked you, is there anything that I've forgotten to ask, or is there anything that you really would like to highlight on this such a richful conversation?
I think we definitely eventually touched on everything. Just to say the more of a summary that started talking about what we have done to what we can do, the real issues, and how COVID-19 have impacted migrant, IDPs, and refugees. And then we are looking at what critical movement or what critical steps that we can take to make this happen. And I think that for me, it's always partnerships that I want to call it, because when I spoke about the movement, I mentioned that a lot of people have to, it's a movement. Movement is not one person. Most often you need the support from a lot of people. And when in this case, we need support from like-minded young people to make some of these movements possible. And so I'll use your platform to go for, I mean, any young person that is...
that's true, man. Even if you reach one or two people, right, like the message go forward, that's what we need, we need this conversation and well-connected people to spread the word. But continue, I agree with you.
Yes, so your platform is a fantastic platform that we really need to amplify. And I visited the platform, watched series of videos and all that. And I think that we need to amplify some of the voices that come on board to make sure that it reach the needed or the target young people. Then young people, all of us can connect, come together, and make some of these things happen. It has to be started by someone, probably not me. But someone has to start. I am willing to start. I have started with this conversation on your platform.
Yes.
I will note it down. But anyone that is listening to me, if you've heard me right, you can start. You can reach out to me and we can work together, because we need a lot of energies to be able to get forward on that.
No, I agree with you, man. This especially like the platform of then changing narration, working together and getting information to people out there. So hopefully we'll continue to have those, platform of sharing experience. And even in Africa, on the continent, even whether it's in Ghana or elsewhere in other countries, we really need those, whether it's on national TV or on the radio, we need those richful conversation on migration and refugees, because these are the things that are not talked about and not well known. And that's really one of the things which, in terms of refugees or migrations around the world, and the thing what really inspired like this platform, to just because first step of taking action or first step of helping is being informed and knowing what is taking place and transpiring whether around you or around the world, But other than that, no matter. Thank you very much, my brother, for joining this.
Thank you so much.
All the way in Ghana. I really hope and looking forward to our ongoing conversations and hopefully our collaboration. When you talk about those strategic action, really looking forward to that. And to our viewers, you heard we need to amplify this platform. We need to amplify the conversations that we're having and just networking more and more. So please, Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. Until next time on GMA Talk, see you.